If there's one thing I've learned as an entrepreneur, it's that you're going to disappoint someone and you get to decide who it's going to be. So stick around to learn more about how I've navigated that decision to be both freeing and empowering.
Hey guys, it's Mindi Linscombe, your host of the Something New Show. Welcome back. We're so excited to be in the studio today. I have a good friend that came in from Tampa, Florida to join us and tell us her story. So if you're listening, I definitely want you to get your notes out because this is one of the best powerhouse female entrepreneurs I know. And I have a privilege of being in a mastermind with and getting to talk to regularly every week. And we just got to spend 24 hours together hanging out and it's been a blast. So Shay Cochrane, thanks for being in the studio today.
Thank you for having me. That was such a kind introduction.
It's real.
I cannot possibly be the most amazing female entrepreneur.
Well, you're one of the most. You are one of the most. I think you have figured out a way to make working and having a family and raising kids, doing the entrepreneur gig. I think you figured it out to how to do the balance. So I want to dive into that today because that's a lot of the questions people have is how do you do it all? Yeah. And so I think you're one of those people that have figured out how to do it all. And I would love to talk about it, but let's read your bio for those of you that haven't heard of Shay Cochrane. She is a commercial photographer and product stylist. Shay's clients span the globe with brands such as Sugarfina Candy, Pure Fiji, Truffle Bags, and Simplified Planner, just to name a few. But powerhouse female entrepreneurs like Jenna Kutcher, Emily Lyons, Marie Forleo, and thousands of others know and love her for her company called Elevae Visuals, and it is a membership program for amazing photography where she puts her years of work as commercial stylist and photographer into a highly curated stock membership that supplies elevated images and videos for online brands. Her vision is to enable more women to find greater success sharing their ideas and businesses with the world. But what really sets her apart is that this 16-hour CEO 16 hours a month, a week, 16 hours a week, does all of this in just 2 days a week. She has been married for almost 19 years. This year will be 19 years to her husband, Graham Cochrane, and they call sunny Tampa their home with their two beautiful daughters. And their latest venture is the Family Goals podcast, where she and her husband provide weekly encouragement for families wanting to build an intentional family culture. So that is quite a resume. I'm loving that so many amazing people have found your work valuable for their businesses, and what a relief for them too to not have to, come up with all of that imagery. Because when we think about all that we do on socials, it's just a full-time job to create the imagery, first of all, not just your content. So how did you get started and decide this was a need in the marketplace?
Well, originally I was a wedding and portrait photographer for a long time. And then I had my first daughter, and I didn't want to work on the schedule of weekends and evenings and a 12-hour, shooting a wedding for 12 hours and that kind of thing. It just didn't work for our season of life anymore.
Yeah.
And so I knew that wasn't working anymore, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do. But I had, thousands of dollars of photography equipment and years and years and years of a portfolio. And so I remember it was like, I was sitting on the couch with my husband watching TV, and finally I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. Like, I'm going to take down 8 years of wedding photography work off of my website, and I'm going to try my hand at commercial photography. I had never done it before, but it sounded appealing to be able to just shoot a little more on my own schedule.
And usually during the mornings of a weekday.
Yep. So I just dove headfirst into commercial photography, and it really worked. And I was just it's not that I was particularly talented, but I think when you raise your hand for something really specific in the marketplace that isn't easy to find. So in that case, it was somebody that would photograph your products, right? We know that big catalogs have commercial photographers that they work with, but who does the average, Etsy shop owner work with, or calligrapher or soap maker? Who do they work with to have their products photographed? So once I raised my hand in the marketplace, virtually, and said, I'm a product photographer and commercial photographer.
This is my specialty.
Yeah, it took off right away because there was just nobody else doing it. If you had products that you needed photographed, you'd hire your friend who is a photographer. They just honestly weren't going to do as good of a job because it's not the same thing, portrait photography and wedding photography, or portrait photography and product photography. So that's how I got into commercial. And then it was, again, I kind of hit a season of life where I was like, I don't I can't be flying out to LA at the drop of a hat to go reshoot images or shoot images for a catalog. So I did that for a little bit of time where I was getting to shoot for some really cool brands and some celebrity clients and things like that. But the way that the pace of that industry
wasn't for you.
It wasn't for me when I had little kids. I couldn't just drop everything and get on a plane and shoot, And so I had to make a decision then, like, do I want to stay in this, or is there some way that I can deliver the same thing, but to scale and to an audience that I really love? So in this case, it'd be female entrepreneurs, like moms that have a passion and have a skill, and they're trying to market it, online. So that was when really it was honestly a client at the time, a commercial client, who was like, what would be great is you could just shoot all kinds of stuff and put it online, and we could use it for our websites. Or that around that time, Pinterest was getting really popular, Instagram was getting really popular. So all of a sudden people needed mass quantities of imagery. It wasn't just you needed a little bit of brand imagery, is that you need to be posting 2 to 3 times a day, and you're sending out emails because you're building an email list, and you're on Pinterest, and now you're blogging. So all of a sudden people needed a ton of imagery that is really hard to keep up with. So that was kind of the light bulb moment for me of, oh man, this really meets a real need, and it's really scalable. And it was a membership model, which is just a really stable model for entrepreneur. So all the stars aligned, and I could do it in my own time. I could decide what my hours were going to be. I could kind of shoot whatever I want, whenever I want, and it be usable for someone. So if you are a coach, but you're not a photographer, but you need images to help promote your coaching business, or you own a yoga studio, but you're not a photographer, but you need yoga images to promote your yoga studio, all of that stuff is available in the Elevae Visuals catalog. So Elevae is kind of a 6th generation iteration. Like I've had to change I've had to iterate on what I was doing as the needs in the marketplace changed. But in its current form, it's stock images, really, really elevated, highly curated stock images and stock video, specifically for female entrepreneurs, just to help women get their ideas and businesses out there without the crazy
the stress of trying to find the photography.
Right. And content creation. Content creation is just every business owner knows that's such a challenge.
It is such a challenge. And then to have somebody aesthetically bring it to life.
Yes.
You might have a vision, but you're maybe the creator of the course, or you're the creator of, the amazing things you're teaching.
Yeah.
Or whether that be, like you said, yoga or whatever.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you're amazing at getting the artwork.
Right. It's not intuitive, right? The way, you and I both love aesthetics, interior design, and fashion, and all those kinds of things. So for some people, it comes very naturally. But even then, even if it comes naturally for you to know how to really present the most elevated version of yourself online, even if that comes naturally, who has the time to go find images, right? Like to go search through all the stock sites to find the good stuff. So it's either you know how to do that, but you don't have time to do that, or it really doesn't come easily to you at all. And so you're not great at image selection, and then it's hurting your perceived value online. So to have somebody else pre-curating that.
I was going to say that's pure gold,
because here's the most elevated way that you can show up so that you have a higher perceived value, and so that you're increasing your recognizability. Is that the right way to say that?
Yeah.
And your loyalty. So anyway, I love what I do. I love what I get to do.
I think that's so awesome. Yeah. So you did this while having kids.
Yes.
And I
only
imagine
16 hours a week.
Yes, but it wasn't always that way. I'm sure at the beginning it was not 16 hours a week.
It was actually.
At the beginning?
Yes.
From the beginning.
From the beginning. Because Chloe's my oldest daughter. 14. And I had her right at that, when I was kind of wrapping up wedding photography work. And very early on, I realized in that first year of her life that I don't remember if it was 16 hours then, right? So I was at home with a new baby, and I was trying to balance my then wedding photography business. And what was really happening, if I'm being honest, is I was missing out on Chloe's first year of life. Mm-hmm. So I would put her down, I'd hold her, feed her, put her down. Like, I need you to sleep because I got to go answer customer emails. I got to go handle this. And also, just to be honest, you know what it feels like to be a new mom. It feels way better to send an invoice or answer an email than go nurse for another round of nursing and go changing a diaper.
The honest moment there is there's an outcome that's guaranteed.
Oh, absolutely.
With new babies, at least for me, that was a very hard season every time, because I didn't know if I fed, swaddled, did all the steps, if that baby was actually going to sleep.
Yeah.
And that whole reality of, oh, it's not textbook. It's not like this happens and then this happens and then you will get a nap from this time to this time so I can take a client call.
Oh, it's not predictable at all.
And so that is harder. When you say it's easier to go send an email, for me, it's easier just because I know when you hit send, something actually happens and it gets sent.
And you accomplish something. Because, at home with a child, you're like,
what did
I do all day? But you were taking care of a child all day.
I kept someone alive.
You kept someone alive, and it took a lot of time, effort, and energy.
Yes.
So it was in that season that I felt that kind of tension. I wanted to be a mom. I chose to be a mom. But if I'm being honest, I found myself resenting that I had a baby, not resenting my clients. I was resenting that I was needed over here. And as soon as that started to come up for me, I was like, that's not me. I really wanted to be a mom. I really want to be all in here. I don't want to resent motherhood. I don't want to resent being pulled away or nap time being interrupted and I didn't get my work done. I don't want to live like that. So it was pretty much right away that I was like, okay, the only way that this is going to work for me is if I can really compartmentalize work and motherhood as best as I can, so that when I'm doing work, I can be 100% all in with work. And when I'm a mom, I can be 100% all in being a mom. I couldn't do them both at the same time, which some women can do very well. And so also, it was a pretty tumultuous time for us financially when that was happening. So I could literally only afford 2 days of childcare. So that's what the origin of the 2 days is that we were broke and I could literally only afford to pay a friend 2 days a week to spend time with Chloe so that I could work. So that was where it's like, okay, I can pay for 16 hours of childcare. I'm going to work 16 hours. And what was so wonderful about that is that limitation forced me to be very strategic with my choices. And I had to instantly, I didn't know the 80-20 principle, but I had to say, okay, if I only have 16 hours a week to grow this company, what do I need to do? What am I going to spend my time doing? And what am I not going to do? So I said no to a lot of things, a lot of opportunities, but I knew what my yeses were, and I knew that my yeses were going to be things that would actually move the ball down the field. So I was able to grow the business pretty quickly, even though it was in a limited amount of time. Now, I will say, what I sacrificed was I did not grow quickly. In a sense I did because, again, it was like I was entering the market kind of offering something that nobody else had claimed to offer. So that helped, but people with more time and no children could fly past me in terms of how quickly they were progressing. So I said no to money, opportunities, speed of growth. There was a lot of things that I continue to say no to because I've just, here we are, how many years later, at least 10 years later, I'm still only working 2 days a week. And I'm just not, I'm just deciding here's what my priorities are. And I really I just really stick to it. So it's not a magic bullet and you don't get everything, but I've gotten a life that I really love and a business that I really love. And I know how my time is best used. So in a way, it's the best of both worlds, but it's not everything, right? It's not all the success I could have, but it's all the success that I care about. So
I think a question that I'm sure other people have, because it popped into my mind, is when you were describing, you decided what you said yes to move your business forward and what to say no to because it was a limited amount of time. Yes. Was there a framework of yeses and nos? How did you make that decision? What was a yes? What was a no?
So there were some practical things. If it was travel, I just wasn't traveling a lot during those days because I had two young kids. So there might have been the best opportunity,
even a speaking engagement or a networking event, or, hey, you could really get hooked up if you came to this circle or whatever.
Go connect with those people, go get in that room. And that was just a no for me because I just didn't really have time for it. I didn't want to be away from the family. I wanted to be with the kids. So those were some no's. Remind me the question. I literally just lost the question.
I love it. That'll be a good blooper right there. How did you decide what to say yes to?
Okay. The rest of it was very ROI driven. So it was just, I had to be very, very pragmatic about if I post on Instagram, am I going to receive dollars for that? No, probably not. If I make myself available for, a client, is that going to bring in money? Yes. So they're nuanced decisions because yes, you have to promote. And yes, you could make an argument for all kinds of different marketing things and how you could justify almost anything marketing related.
But you really put a dollar behind your
yes. I had to really say, what's a better use of my time? Sending an email to my email list or posting on Instagram? Well, for me, it was better for me to send an email to my email list. So that was how I made decisions. It didn't mean that I wasn't on Instagram. I was, but when I was prioritizing my time, I really had to know what would actually bring in money versus what was just a nice idea or what I saw everybody else doing or what, seemed like it might work versus like, what am I going to actually be able to invoice for? And so I need to just do that. And so I really applied like Tim Ferriss's 4-hour work week, like principles for identifying and he has a great question. It's like, if you could only work 4 hours a week, if you were sick and then you went to the doctor, the doctor was like, you're too stressed out. Your heart's going to explode if you work more than 4 hours a week. What would you do? How would you run your business in only 4 hours a week? And then he takes it one step further and he says, okay, you can't even work 4 hours a week. Like your life depends upon it. You can only work 2 hours a week. What would you do? Like, what would you do to keep the business alive and moving forward if you could only work 2 hours a week? And I just took that very literally because I was like, 16 hours is not very much. So I had to know what I could hire for. I had to know what I was just going to say no to, anyway.
What were some of the people you hired first? What roles?
The first person I hired was just a general assistant. And so she would check emails. She would do customer service. She would, handle a lot of the low hanging fruit that didn't need my face or my voice or my unique skill set. So she wasn't doing any photography, but she can write an email. She can send an invoice. She can do scheduling. She can, unpackage all of my props and set them up for me so that when I go to shoot, they're all ready. She could purchase props. I mean, there was a lot that she could do. So I started with just a 16-hour a week general assistant.
I love that she got your same schedule.
She did. She got my same, because I was only working Tuesday and Thursday. So I'm like, I need you in the office Tuesdays and Thursdays, like the same 8 to 9 hour period of time that I was in the office. And so that was it. She wasn't full time, but anything that didn't
require your skill,
be me or my face or my voice, like she could do.
Okay. And then have you added more photographers to this?
Yeah. So now with Elevae, we have a ton of super talented contributing photographers. So I shoot a little bit for it as I can, but we've got amazing photographers from all over the US, really a few globally, that are creating stuff that's so much more beautiful than I could even do. So that's where also it's not, I had to learn very early on, like, this can't just be about me. This can't just be about my skill. There's going to be a ceiling on that. I have got to hire people that are more talented than me.
Well, and that, like you said, are from all over the world, because they're going to have different exposure to beautiful curated backdrops
and
that we don't necessarily have,
like aesthetics. Like, you're not going to get like a cozy cabin aesthetic in Florida.
This episode is sponsored by Something Blue 30A. Looking for the perfect vacation spot to disconnect from everything, put your feet in the softest sand, and enjoy a fresh, renovated 2-bedroom, 2.5-bath townhouse right on the beach in my favorite place in the world? Well, 30A is situated in the Panhandle of Florida, and I'd love for you to check out Something Blue 30A on Instagram and make it the perfect place for your next vacation.
And I realized that when it was winter time, and I can't shoot snow or Christmas, really. I've got to have other people to do this. So now we've got a ton of amazing contributing photographers, and I still have a small team, making it happen.
I love it. Yeah. I love it so much. Okay. So, what would you say to working moms that might be on here that are like, hey, as I have more kids or whatever, what would you recommend to them? Give them some advice on seasonally working or, ramping up. Like, if they have a business or they have a really great career that they don't want to leave, like this is something they're really passionate about. Yeah. How do they do that with adjusting to the different seasons?
Yeah. I mean, I have two different answers for whether or not you're an entrepreneur or not an entrepreneur. I mean, the reality is, if you're an entrepreneur, you have a whole lot more say in what your life looks like and what your schedule looks like.
Yes.
If you are working a 40-hour-a-week job, then you have less flexibility and less say. So if you're in that situation where you're in a career that you love, but you really are trying to maintain balance at home, I would say that you have to, there's a lot that you think you have to do as a mom. There's a lot that you think you have to do or you feel pressured to do by society or your friends or what you see on Instagram or Pinterest. And it really, if you can really identify the things that are going to be the big wins for you and for your kids and for your family, and be bold enough to say, you know, I don't care if I have a clean house, or I don't care if my kids are, if we're everywhere, we're at all the social events, or I don't, you know, at the end of the day, what really matters to me is I want to be able to sit down with my kids when they get home from school and not still be answering emails, or I want to be able to, you know, cook dinner at night, or whatever it is for you, whatever it is that's important to your family, tuck your kids in at night. If you can really identify the big wins for you with building the family that you want and the family culture and home life that you want, there's a whole lot that you can say no to as a mom, that might feel like, you know, it's going against the grain of culture maybe a little bit. So again, you have less flexibility if you're in a regular.
But I love what you said. It's just like, let go of some of those things, because
you're
you
just
can't
have to let go. You literally cannot do it all.
Yeah. Like I let go of making lunches.
Yeah.
My son's in the studio today.
Right. Or you can let go of cleaning, and if you can afford to hire someone to fold your laundry, like there's things like that you can let go of.
Yeah.
And either you can hire someone else to do it, or you just have to let go of it. And you got to let go of what
or
you
teach
think
your
it
kids
means.
how to do it.
Or you teach your kids how to do it. Absolutely. So then if you're an entrepreneur, you've got all kinds of freedom. And so what I would say there is start with the vision for the life that you want, and then build your business around that vision for life. So if you're, and that includes, your vision for life includes, how much do I want to work? How many days off do I want a year? Do I want to have to work on weekends? Do I want to have to work in the evenings, or no? Like as an entrepreneur, you have an incredible opportunity, responsibility, but opportunity to build this out however you want. You get to decide what it looks like when you're an entrepreneur. And so people will leave a regular 9 to 5 only to work 24/7, 7 days a week, and never take vacation and take their laptop on vacation. And the reality is you get to decide what that looks like. So you also get to decide, I don't want to work on the weekends, or I don't want to work in the evenings, or I don't want to work past 6, or, you know, I want to take a month off, you know? You get to decide, but you have to decide first. Otherwise, the industry will decide for you. Your customers will decide for you. You know, everyone else will decide for you. So if you can work backwards and say, this is the life that I want, this is what it looks like. I want to ideally only work 30 hours a week, whatever. What days do you want to work? You decide, and then you build the business that fits into that. And that might mean that you have to get curious about other ways of doing business that are different than maybe your competitors are doing business. And that's where I got into kind of online passive income. You know, what could I create that's really scalable? I can do a finite amount of time, which is different than service-based, where you're trading hours for time, right? I had to get out of that line of work. In order for me to build the life that I wanted, I had to make a conscious decision to get out of service-based hours for money to, like, how can I invest hours, but it be really scalable, so that I'm not trading time for money.
Well, and I even think career people can look at it that way, even though they are paid a set amount for their skill sets and time. Yeah. Like what I've loved and structured my business around is giving them, like, the second piece of their income is very scalable. Yeah. And it's like, if you want your time to replicate and be more valuable, yeah, there's a scalable component to your income. And so I really love it. I want them to feel like they're getting to choose too. Absolutely. How much money they make in a year. Absolutely. Based on the contribution and value they bring to a company. So it's a different model. But I want my team to feel that way too.
Well, and even within that, any given employee could say, okay, what type of clients bring in the highest, sale? What type of attention is required to secure the sale? Like, there's ways that they can dial in. Like, what's the 20% of what I'm doing that's generating the 80% of the result? So you can 80-20 anything, but even if you're in that kind of job, yes, you can decide, like, how do I, because the opposite is we just fill our time, right? If you say, especially as an entrepreneur, this is a major entrepreneur thing. We just think, okay, I'm going to sit down at my desk at 9 a.m. I'm going to stay here until 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. And I promise you will find things to do. It's not, I don't only work 16 hours because there's only 16 hours worth of work to do.
No, there's a million things
you can do. There's a million things, and you're never going to get to the end of the list. So
one of the things I stopped doing, Shay, was checking my email.
Personal or business or both?
Everything. I was just like, I hate email. Yes. I hate it. So people that really need to get a hold of me, they know my number and they'll text me, but I don't check email, and I don't even have someone that checks my email. Like, I'm
it's just eventually a black hole.
It is.
If I checked it right now, would it have like 4,000?
Yeah, probably. And stuff from my kid's school or whatever, but eventually their teacher reaches out and said, hey, you didn't sign that permission slip. I'm like, no problem. I'll pop in today. Problem. And so it's just hilarious because I'm like, I could, if I started, spend way too much time doing that. And it's not income generating. Yeah. It's usually people asking me lots of questions or it's advertising of, whatever. And so I'm just saying you get to the point where you decide it's not worth my mental space.
No.
I'm like,
and who are you going to disappoint? Right. Because you can let down the client, you can let down the friend, you can let down your family. And oftentimes we choose, I'll let down my family, right? I won't be there for them, or I'll be on my phone, or I won't be present, or that kind of thing. But I'm not going to let down a client or a customer or a friend or a teacher or someone else that is expecting something of me. And so you do have to have a certain amount of resolve to say, like, it's not, at the end of the day, I'll disappoint everyone else. I might not get back to your email or your text, but you know what? These are the people that I really don't want to disappoint.
Exactly. And I want to clarify that my company has team members and they answer our emails for our companies. But I'm just saying most of the time, all of our clients go through our company. Yeah. And so I'm like, what is anyone really emailing me about? Nothing. Nothing.
And why do schools email so much anyways? We turned out perfectly fine. And our teachers did not email our parents. There was no email.
I have 4 kids and the amount of emails I get from school.
Stupid.
And so that's why I'm like, I just can't, I can't go there. Yeah. So I just want my clients that do use my businesses to know we do reply to your email.
You will get a response to email
from a team member. But if you email me personally, maybe not. But I love what you said. There's somebody that's getting let down, and the people usually emailing me personally are selling me something, or
they want you to collaborate.
It's a newsletter or whatever. Yeah. And I usually will love to do those things. I'll just let the most important things kind of rise to the top.
You have to.
Because I really want to spend time with the people that I love the most.
Yeah. And there's just so many demands on our time. I mean, in your pocket all the time are demands on your time. Like, they're inserting themselves into your moment. And so you have to choose who you're going to disappoint. Disappointing people is a reality. If you live trying to make everyone happy and show up for everyone, then you will be exhausted and burnt out.
Have you heard that your most creative time is also in the morning?
I've only dabbled in like an energy audit and figuring out what time of day you are the most
personally
productive.
The most productive. Yeah.
So for me, I think it's like late morning, ends by 2:00. After 2:00, I'm just
mush.
Mush. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I've heard this, that the first part of your day. So I've heard very strongly from people that have, been super successful entrepreneurs. They've said, don't start your day with responding to email.
Oh, for
Put it in the last part of your day. Absolutely. For the last hour.
Never start your day with email. Don't even open it, because you're just going to sabotage your focus. And that was another thing I had to get really good. I knew that. Do not start your day with email. I also wouldn't have my phone on me. So my phone would be like off or in another room while I was working. I mean, you have to get really strategic.
Very focused. Oh my goodness. So good. Okay. So let's see. Well, we just talked about working fewer working hours. That was one of my big questions for you. But what would you say is the biggest differentiator between businesses that succeed and ones that fail?
So my answer always is discipline. And it's like the least sexy answer. But I think that the business owners that win are the ones that are disciplined. And I don't just mean, there's layers of discipline, right? So it's disciplined focus. It's knowing, what am I doing? Who is my audience? What matters? What am I getting the highest? What's going to generate the highest ROI? So there's disciplined focus. There's disciplined action, because you can know what you need to do, but not do it, right? And that's your typical, like, I sit down at my desk and I open email instead. Instead of doing my most important project of the day,
or the hardest thing,
I get on Instagram. Or instead of doing the hardest thing of the day, I'm just going to take care of all this really low hanging fruit. So it's one thing to know what you need to do, right? That's a skill. That's a discipline skill, to know what you need to do to actually grow the business. It's a whole different discipline to actually do it, right? So there's just layers and layers of discipline. I think the business owners that are disciplined in where they're going, what it's going to take to get there, and then actually doing it, are the ones that at the end of the day win.
I love it. Yeah. Okay. In your most recent venture that I'm really excited, I've been hearing you talk about as you're getting ready for it, is an adventure with your husband.
Yeah.
Because you've had separate companies.
Yes.
You still have those separate companies, but this is something you're going to be doing together with your family goals podcast.
Yeah.
So first of all, I want to congratulate you publicly on your launch, because you on launch day were in the top 10 podcasts for family and relationship category, right?
Yeah. We were number 6.
That is incredible.
That's exciting.
For your launch. So I just want to congratulate you guys. But what made you decide like, hey, we want to do this?
So we have wanted to collaborate for a really long time. I mean, you know Graham a little bit. We are both entrepreneurs. We both also speak, and we do this kind of thing for a living. So but we've never done it together. And so we've had very separate businesses that have overlap. They're both online businesses, passive income based, businesses. So we've share a lot on the backside in terms of entrepreneurship and things like that. But we've never collaborated publicly. And so this is kind of our first foray into that. I think retirement goals would be getting to speak and write books with him and like travel the world speaking. But this is kind of just like the first step in there. We both really care about building an intentional family, an intentional family culture. Our kids are turning out okay so far. So
you're like,
maybe something's working. So every week on the Family Goals podcast, we're talking about marriage. We're talking about parenting. We're talking about building family culture, which is just a topic that's so fascinating to me. We're talking a little bit about finances and money management, especially as it relates to how we pass on healthy money management to our children. And then what else are we covering in there? I think that's about it. A little bit of entrepreneurship, because we are both entrepreneurs. So that's going to work its way in. That's part of building an intentional life that you love. That has been a part of our story. So we're just excited to get started and just begin those conversations. And the point isn't that we've done everything right. And the point is not to do anything the way that we do it. The point is that we really think that every family is unique and is on this earth for a specific, unique purpose that has to do with the talents and skills and interests and passions of the people in your family. And so we just want everyone to lean into what makes your family unique, and then the little things that you can do that make a really big difference in the way your children turn out, the connection and unity of your family, and everyone kind of living out their purpose within your family. So that's our mission. It's do not be like us, not do what we do, but really lean into what makes your family unique and decide to make some small intentional choices that will really create a really connected family culture that has a beautiful impact in the world in whatever way looks unique and specific to your family unit.
I love that. Yeah. And I love that it is true. If we're not just a couple, but we're a whole family. When you add your kids to the mix, it's like we, as our whole family, have a purpose.
And that really becomes evident the older your kids get. Because when they're little, they're just kind of going along with whatever you're doing. But as they get older, you realize, oh my gosh, I mean, you're getting into this season where it's like, we actually have some other adults in our house in a way. They have preferences and passions and the way that they want to show up in the world and things that matter to them. So now it's not just the two of you. You're incorporating like, okay, well, we've all been brought together on purpose for a purpose as a like unique little family puzzle. So how does that translate into the way that we show up in the world, the way that we serve, our sort of mission as a family? So I love that. We're just starting to discover that now with our girls becoming teenagers, that now there's like 4 adults in the home in a way. And we want to give voice an opportunity to the unique ways that they were created and their unique purposes and contributions. So it's just really fun, really cool.
I love it. Okay, so if people wanted to follow the show or you, where would they find you?
Okay, so the familygoalspodcast.com is where you can find the show, familygoalspodcast.com. I'm on Instagram as Shay Cochrane. That's just kind of a little bit of peek behind the scenes on our life and entrepreneurship and the things we have going on. And then Elevae Visuals is on Instagram as well. We are not everywhere because I had to choose where we were going to be. So we are on Instagram and that is it. But you can find us there at Elevae Visuals. Yeah.
Or where can they sign up for your membership too?
ElevaeVisuals.com.
I love that.
Oh, so beautiful.
I can't
They'll
wait.
be so inspired.
I'm sure. I mean, already with just the pictures you were taking at my house, I was like, wow, okay,
Your
Shay.
house needs to be in the Elevae Visuals catalog. It's so gorgeous.
Well, thank you. Well, you'll come back and hang out and you can take pictures there. It'll be great. Okay, so if I were to ask you for this show, we say, let's learn how to live a life worth celebrating.
Yeah.
If I were to ask you, what would be one way that comes to your mind to live a life worth celebrating?
Wow, that's such a great question. It's kind of a strange answer, but what comes up for me is really leaning into gratitude. kind of a bizarre answer, but I feel like gratitude keeps you in a headspace where you're open and curious and excited. And also it kind of helps you to lean into a little bit more of the things that actually really matter to you, like those connection points that matter to you, things like that. So I think that a simple step is just lean into a few gratitude practices. And that is celebrating the good, right? Because there's all kinds of challenges and there's all kinds of struggle and there's all kind of bad that we all have to deal with. But a simple gratitude practice in the morning, in the evening is going to really help you to anchor back at the good that's happening and help you to identify the things that you really value in life. And that'll kind of keep you, again, like anchored to not what the world is telling you to care about, but like what really matters to you, what really feels worth celebrating to you and the good. And then you can start to cultivate that good even more intentionally.
I love it. All right. Well, Shay, what is your favorite drink that we are going to try out in the studio today?
So one of my favorite drinks is a lavender matcha latte. And if you haven't had matcha, I'm nervous because you might say it tastes like
It's been a long time, but I will tell you what's so funny is today you were like, I don't think they're going to have it. And then I was like, no, let's try it. They made it.
It was not on
Is
the
it
menu.
hard to find? Is it?
No,
Oh, most
not
places have
usually.
it.
Yeah,
Okay.
most
Okay.
places have it.
So here we go. We're going to try a lavender matcha latte. So
Can you see how
cheers.
green it is?
Oh, it's very green. Cheers.
Cheers.
I taste the lavender more than the matcha.
Okay, good.
It's delicious. I like it. Yeah, it's very
delicious.
soothing.
Yeah.
So are you more of a tea drinker than coffee?
I'm a little bit of both. I have a little bit of coffee, and then I do like matcha or green tea in the afternoon.
I love watching some of your health practices too online. So we were talking
I dabble in wellness obsession,
biohacking. So she has this awesome Airbnb that she's gonna start to cure. It's already an amazing.
It's already an Airbnb.
It's going, but you might start to weave in some health components.
Yeah, I want to make it into a wellness, like biohacking Airbnb in Tampa. I think that'd be really cool. So that's my little like side project.
I know. So the last all last night and this morning we've been talking about if I were to get a sauna,
PEMF mat, infrared light. Yeah,
where would we put it and everything else? So it's been super fun having you. I want to say thank you. I'm inspired by your life and your work and your role as a mom and a wife, and I just love all you're doing. Thank you for sharing your gifts with us, and we'll hopefully have you back on the show one day.
Thank you.
That'd be great. So if you guys like this episode, I'd love for you to comment, like it, share with your friends, and subscribe to the Something New show where we get to have amazing guests like Shay and learn how to live a life worth celebrating. Bye, guys.
Bye.
See you next time. Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe to the show, rate, review, and share with a friend. Also, follow the Something New show on Instagram and Facebook. If you want a fuller experience, watch the show on YouTube to help you create a life worth celebrating.